You must have a very clear understanding of why you want to do it and what focus you want to build. And the focus you want to build in terms of starting an organization is something which must be deeply passionate inside. Because you're going to go through ups and downs. In many cases you're going to fail. Certainly in parts of your journey you're going to have major failures. So unless you have a very clear commitment to the focus which you build in terms of what you want to build successfully, and have the flexibility to change that focus because you've not judged the market properly. Markets don't run after you, you have to look for some basic measure of academic excellence. Because when you're in school, when you're in college, that's your job. You have to perform. You have to perform to a certain measure of academic excellence. Not necessarily in the top 10%, but certain measure of academic excellence. So for a shortlisting purpose, a lot of our focus would be in the top half of the class, not the bottom half of the class. But that's a mechanical way of doing it because your probability of getting the right students are better. Two is we attach importance to extracurricular activities, particularly in positions where we are recruiting for leadership positions, and particularly extracurricular activities where you have demonstrated some leadership in school. Three is we look at whether you have passion. Jobs require a lot of passion on an ongoing basis. So whatever you have done in terms of your studies or your life or your extra activities, have you demonstrated adequate passion in them? And your ability to be persistent. To make changes in any organization, you have to have a measure of very high persistency. You've got to go on and on and on and on. If you don't have that persistency, very often you fall off just when success is around the corner.
The first thing which I've learned in life is that you must begin life and you must approach life with your strengths. It's absolutely essential. Everyone in schooling very often keeps on pushing one to focus on what is wrong with us or tells us what is wrong with us. And there is a very interesting imaginary story of a rabbit, and you must hear this one. The rabbit was enrolled in a rabbit school, and like all rabbits, it could hop very well but could not swim. At the end of the year, the rabbit got high marks in hopping but failed in swimming. The parents were concerned, the relations were concerned, the friends were concerned, the elder friends particularly. They said, forget about hopping, you are anyway good at it. You don't have to keep practicing it. Concentrate on your swimming. And they sent the rabbit for tuitions and coaching in swimming. And guess what happened? The rabbit forgot how to hop. As for swimming, have you ever seen a rabbit swim? While it is important for us to know what we are not good at, we must cherish what is good in us. It's very fundamental to life. That is because it is only on our strengths that can give us the energy to correct our weaknesses.
I think that's a very personal question of what should really motivate you. I think the longest sustaining thing which should really motivate you is that something in which you're trying to quest for something to satisfy yourself and feel good about yourself. And decide what that is and be constant to that purpose and try to work for excellence in that area. And don't get too worried about what other people think of you all the time.
Whenever you talk about ethics and integrity in the Indian context, the two companies that come to mind are, one is the Tata Sons and the other is Wipro. What is so special about these two companies that it has been imbibed in these organizations? How is it done?
It's very simple. It's done by practice. There's no other way you imbibe things in an organization. It is practice. Integrity is practice. Leadership is practice. Innovation is practice. It's all practice. You've got to figure out what you want your company to be and what you consider as non-compromisable, not negotiable. And just set those out and keep them as simple as possible and keep them as few as possible and practice them. And practice them every day, every hour, every minute and have zero exception to them.
The reality is you'll have to start small. Like we started small. And you must have a very clear understanding of why you want to do it and what focus you want to build. And the focus you want to build in terms of starting an organization is something which must be deeply passionate inside. Because you're going to go through ups and downs. In many cases, you're going to fail. Certainly, in parts of your journey, you're going to have major failures. So unless you have a very clear commitment to the focus which you build in terms of what you want to build successfully, and have the flexibility to change that focus because you've not judged the market properly. The markets don't run after you. You have to run after what the market demand is, what the market demand you can create. But you have to be persistent, and you have to be prepared to make sacrifices, because you will have to make sacrifices in the early stages, and some very major sacrifices, and most of them will be financial sacrifices, because you won't get cash flows the way you hope to get cash flows, unless you have a brilliant, genius idea. Then you'll get cash flows.
Is that a rupee earned is far more valuable and far more merited than 5 found. My friend was sharing with me a story of his 8-year-old niece. She would always complain about the quality of the breakfast and about the quality of the food she would get in the house. She came from a family where there was a cook, and they tried just about everything to please her. Finally, my friend took the child to a supermarket and bought her one of these ready-to-cook breakfasts. The child had to cut the packet and pour water in the dish. After that, it took 2 minutes in the microwave to be ready. The child found the food to be absolutely delicious. The difference was that she had cooked it with her own hands. She had put work and effort into it. I have found that nothing gives as much satisfaction as earning our rewards. A rupee earned is much more valuable than 5 rupees found.
I'm not able to put my hands around it adequately well. But I just believed very early in my career that whatever I do, I must do to a standard which exceeds myself. And that's been my major driver for whatever success I've been able to achieve, is you set standards for yourself which exceed yourself. And you keep trying to live up to those standards or trying to measure yourself against those standards. So that's what's really driven me, whether it be the smallest of acts or the biggest of acts, or the most routine of acts, is you try to build a standard of excellence in whatever you do. And that reflects on the whole. And if you're a little luckier added to it, it helps a lot.